it is important to have a very intimate and emotional, spiritual, physical contact with the music as an interpreter. But during the moment of making music for the audience, you have to have enough distance at the same time that you can really be objective in terms of how we're performing to the public, so the public can feel it. Mr. Bernstein was one of the most physically organic communicators. He was also very good with text. He could speak very well, a great communicator. But also, if you watch the videos of his movement, it's quite seductive, showing exactly what it is. And when you think about it, this is one of the most, I would say, fundamental forms of human communication that we have, just body communication, body language. And sometimes when we grow up, we can forget this. You know, we've had so many social training exercises, but you should not show how you're really feeling. Maybe that's appropriate for certain circumstances, but for making music, of course, you need to be able to communicate on all levels. When I grew up in California, my parents, especially my mother, really had a problem with this rock music. She thought it was not only not interesting, she thought it was really the wrong direction to go. And I remember once Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention appeared on the television, immediately it was turned off. It was just forbidden. Many years later, when I was visiting, I was invited to visit Maestro Pierre Boulez in Paris, and I got a tour. And I saw on one of the announcement boards that Pierre Boulez was going to conduct Frank Zappa. And I was surprised. So when I returned to California, I did contact the Zappa office and explain to the office that Mr. Boulez will be conducting some of Mr. Zappa's music, and I would like to see the music. I heard nothing back for weeks, and then out of the blue, unannounced, the telephone rang, and it was Frank Zappa on the telephone. I was quite old 28, 29 years old, never been to a rock concert, never in my life, a new experience. So my first rock concert was to go to, at the invitation of Mr. Zappa, to go to his concert. And at the intermission, a bodyguard took me back and I met Frank Zappa. And Frank said, very nice to meet you. You're Kent Nagano. I'm Frank Zappa. I brought you some scores. And it was a mountain of scores. They said, these are for you. Take them home, look them over, let me know what you think, and if you're interested, we can talk. Another few months went by, and the next telephone call was to invite me to collaborate with him with the London Symphony Orchestra to record 3 records of his music. And because of that, we became very, very close. Not as rock star or young conductor, but just purely as 2 people who were compulsive about music and wanting to make it at the highest way possible. This is kind of a miracle, because when we met each other, from the first moment, it was like we found we say in English, a soulmate. And the orchestra had just gone through a generation change, and at that time, it was just my beginning in Germany as well, and we began this voyage together. There have now been 2 generation changes since I began in 1999. Which is incredible to think, but yet somehow we've grown in a similar way, so that the relationship feels every time I return as if we've just picked up from yesterday. So it's kind of a miraculous or magical relationship that we have. No matter who is the principal conductor, no matter how many generation changes there have been, the DSO sounds like the DSO. It's really fascinating. Some of the colleagues say it must have something to do with DNA of the orchestra. Somehow it lives on and it's communicated. How to describe it? Well, I would describe it as the DSO has always had a virtuoso aspect. They've always had a lot of soloistic capability within the orchestra. The concertmaster has always been a big personality. The solo woodwinds have all had big personalities, strong personalities. As in the public, when you go to see the DSO, you see them actually as they play. It feels like it was yesterday, actually. It was a feeling of a new beginning with an orchestra-conductor relationship, a new beginning for the DSO to go to Japan for the first time after many, many years, and a new beginning that Japan would actually welcome a Japanese-American with a German orchestra, something that had never really happened before. That's why I think all of us, all of the DSO who remember that tour, they don't forget it either. It was something very special.
Yeah, ein bisschen langsam.
It was quite strange communicating with a Japanese choir, speaking German and English. And it was especially attention for me because I look like I should be able to speak Japanese, but my Japanese is is horrific. It's really nearly non-existent. It was a bit of a surrealistic situation for me as someone of Japanese heritage, working with a Japanese choir and speaking English and German at the same time. To invite them to work with a German orchestra, it was all a little bit upside down. But of course, they sang very, very well, and there was no problem at all. What's most interesting about tours is that one has the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time together with your colleagues outside of what the normal lifestyle is. And it's an opportunity where you can draw closer together, where you get to know each other. So that was also a great opportunity to come together as an ensemble. That was, I feel, something very visionary from Deutsche Welle. As far as I know, something of this scale was kind of historical. It had never really been done with so much visual interviews, discussions about the composer. And until today, I haven't really seen anything so ambitious as this huge project. Even, as you recall, some animation sectors were involved. Really free thinking, very imaginative explorations. The feeling within the orchestra was that this was an opportunity to explore, at this time, new technology, to try to reach millions of people and throughout the entire world. And that was what made the orchestra so excited about the project, is let's try to play for the international audience, the international public that we can reach through Deutsche Welle. With Fourth Symphony, I do have a personal relationship with it. Now the piece to me seems like an unusually strong statement of the future. Not at all conservative. It's something that actually is nearly a radical signpost towards the future. And that's why it remains so active in my repertoire today. It is neue Musik, so to say. What makes repertoire so vital is that the composer will bring the sounds of the future, bring us to the future, so that the public is really anchored in the future. But a composer also will let us hear the past while we're in the future. So the last movement, as you know, in the Fourth Symphony is the Passacaglia, an ancient form that Brahms brought back as a part of the future. The Passacaglia that's been used since Baroque times and even before. So for us, it maybe today doesn't feel so radical, but at the time, it was a clear signpost that the 20th century is coming, where our tradition is going forward. That's why I feel today the Fourth Symphony is such a pivotal symphony, and why, for example, Schoenberg, Webern were so fascinated with this symphony. He receives a lot of DSO CDs, and he plays them on the French radio. The piece is special because we've been talking about the past, present, and future. So one of the things that Bruneau-Boulmier is playing with is exactly this, putting layers of time together. Independent voices that are traveling in time together, coordinated of course, but from a melodic standpoint, completely free and moving. The polyphony is taking place primarily between the three trumpet solos and the string movement. At the same time, the piano and the percussion, they are playing oftentimes very, very vertically, homophonic. So you hear these chords that are moving vertically, while the rest of the orchestra is moving horizontally, polyphonically. And the tension that comes from the vertical and the horizontal colliding together. We met as professionals on the concert stage, and we gave many, many concerts together, and I always enjoyed it because with Mari and me, we were so close musically that very little discussion was needed. And when I would hear her play, it felt so close to my own feeling or my own aesthetic that it was very natural, very organic. It was only after many, many years that we actually came together as a couple. But still, whenever we appear on the stage together, I still count myself as very fortunate because the musical connection is a very, very natural one. At earlier phases, you just want to simply do as much as you possibly can all of the time, but choices do have to be made always, otherwise the quality will suffer. On the other side, and here I will quote Frank Zappa, because someone asked Frank Zappa the same thing. Don't you ever get tired of touring with your band and going over? And Zappa said, actually, I feel I'm one of the most privileged people because I have the privilege of making music, And this is what I would like to do in my free time. Not everyone has the wonderful situation where they are able to have as their occupation something that is also their passion. So in that sense, I feel very fortunate.